How are we still arguing about Michael Jordan?
Well,
Stop. Okay, it's time to.
Good, but still.
These commercial breaks are intense.
23.
Stop it! It's time to talk about Allen Iverson's legacy, his place in NBA history. First and foremost, though, this is a young man whose off-court antics cost him a very, very stellar career. So the question I have for you is, in this day of social media awareness of what players are doing away from the court, do you think it could have prevented the downfall of one Allen Iverson, just the eyeballs, the fact that people not to share the story?
No.
No?
And he's a strong-willed guy. For all the reasons you don't like him, you have to admire him for his attitude, his commitment to himself, and being true to himself. He wouldn't have changed for anything. We saw that when the dress codes came. He wrote a check to the league at the beginning of the season, said, "Here, I'm not wearing a suit once." He's not going to change for anything.
Can you imagine AI, like the four of us, like feverishly checking Instagram?
Oh, that would be the best.
Sending pictures, like, at the answer, AI3. Nothing would have changed. He was who he was. He is who he is. Nothing was going to change. The off-court antics, as you called it, it started when he was in high school. I mean, even before he went to Georgetown,
It started
he
elementary
spent time in jail. He had problems from the get-go. All the more reason why his career actually is even more incredible because of what he went through, the emotional turmoil off the court.
Now, if you're wondering why we are talking about the career of Allen Iverson, recently Kent Babb penned Not a Game. It is a book that is about the incredible rise and the unthinkable fall of Allen Iverson. If you go on the Hangout NBA Instagram account, we're actually giving away a copy of this book. But, I mean, one of the things that was gleaned from this book was, I mean, I'm sure you've heard of it in the public discourse so far. Allegedly, Allen Iverson took some drinks prior to the infamous practice soundbite that is like, the most indictable piece of evidence against Allen Iverson currently. But one thing that came out of the book was that there were circumstances around that soundbite. His best friend had recently passed away. There were rumors that he was going to be traded by Philly at that point in time. So do any of these new revelations change your perception of that single moment in Allen Iverson history, knowing all the the situations swirling around it? No. Nadine?
No, like you guys were saying before, no, I would not, because Allen Iverson was my favorite player. I'm sorry, I have to say Kobe.
Wow.
Sorry, 96. I have to say, but I got my first pair of AIs before even I got my first pair of Jordans. You all know the red and white.
Yeah, AI questions. Yep.
Like that, you know what I'm saying?
But
so I don't think anything that he's doing now will affect anything because he was an amazing player.
So you don't think that
No.
that him punching his wife in the kidney, abandoning his kids in a hotel room to go drinking at night, none of that alters your perspective?
Will had sex with supposedly 10,000 females, and he's still
that changed my
cool,
perspective on it.
right?
I think that stuff doesn't incriminate you when you're talking about the Hall of Fame. I think first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. They're not looking at the off-court stuff as much. But I think you touched on social media. If social media was a play, the public perception would be a lot different, knowing all those things then as opposed to now.
But I think too, one of the things I was trying to drive home to was with that practice soundbite, and me and you were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Like he kept saying practice, not the game. We're sitting here talking about practice, and a lot of people thought he was disrespecting practice. But we're talking about a guy who just lost his best friend, right? He constantly plays, whether hurt or not. The team's talking about trading him, and I think some of the practice stuff was he was talking about the greater scope of there's so much going on in his life, and you guys have me here talking about practice. And it was not so much an indictment of practicing, but it was an indictment of the fact that I've got all this stuff swirling around, and we're here talking about not the game. We're talking about practice, guys. Does that not change it a bit?
Okay, first of all, Denzel Washington, great job. That was great. You're hired.
Thank you.
You got the role. I hadn't heard of that. I also hadn't heard about those domestic issues, which are pretty disgusting.
You need a copy of the book.
Yeah, I would read that right away. But the whole practice press conference, whether there was a different inference there or not, the people assembled didn't know. So it came across poorly. But the fact of the matter is, Iverson did not need to practice. The guy was a gamer. It did not matter. He gave 100 million% in every game. Nobody could ever question him in game situations.
All right.
Context is
No.
No.
If you were in my ear right now, you'd be like, "Akil, we gotta go to break." So we gotta go to break. But when we return here on Canada's Home for Talking Hoops, guys, there is a basketball tournament worth $1 million. You can put your team in. There are 97 teams in it right now. A team representing Notre Dame was in it last year and won. NBA players, NCAA players are getting in. Who's gonna win, man? We'll be back with more Hangout